Okay, let's begin some restorative practice today. And it's an interesting pathway that we begin with. So you'll need some wall space and a lot of props. So help yourself to all your props. Have a block in front of the bolster. And so the bolster is horizontal. And I want you to kind of creep your pelvis onto the block. That sounds kind of funny. Creep your pelvis onto the block. So you're gonna lift up and sit onto the edge so that the lower path of the pelvis needs to be kind of connected to the block. I don't want you to be all on the bolster. You need to have block and bolster. Okay? So first things first, we align the props. We got a horizontal bolster, the block in front, and our pelvis is on the block. Okay. Now, when you are leaning back, get a sandbag, place it first on the ribs. If you're sandbag averse to the ribs, don't start with the sandbag here, because some of us don't like the sandbag on the rib cage. I'm aware of that. So this first set is going to be a little bit of a kind of pelvic puzzle. The pelvic puzzler is what I like to call it. So when you have that sand on the rib cage, you might kind of pinch it in the center and then try to kind of spread out the sand so it is really at the xiphoid. So in any case, whether we name things or not, it's where they intersect, two sides of the cage, right? Two cages for secondary respiratory muscles. Okay, so I have mine a little bit towards my stomach in some way, but I want you to lift the right foot and put that right ankle to the left knee, and then let that right thigh in its bending position kind of slant towards the wall. Okay, maybe you don't have your wall space right there, but it's slanting away. So feel where your bottom foot is centered. See if you can kind of carefully slide that left foot a little closer towards your center of gravity, which kind of gravitates the hip joint so it tilts a bit. So what I want you to work with is maybe even hands on like your fingertips to the pelvic front, and you're trying to find that that's balanced on the block. I know the block is tiny, but it's a support. Stretch your arms open, hands relaxing, and give a few moments here. If the sand is too much, you can always slide it off on these first three poses, but feel relaxing your right foot, trying to negotiate that right knee. Just let it kind of hang out to that side. Don't force it to go towards you, to push too far, or to go outwards. Just see what this side is, what this side does, because they're probably a little different from one to the next. And then align the movement of breathing, or maybe assign the breathing to inhaling, filling the lungs. Strength training for the breathing muscles if you have sand, or not because you've got a bolster under you. That's going to place some attention to the breath. And now change the side of the leg. So right foot steps down. And then you might just feel the pressure of the right foot. And then feel if you can actually just peel the left foot off the floor. See if you can kind of spin that left knee out before it hooks onto your left foot, hooks onto your ankle. If you can coordinate that movement in your thigh musculature. This is an interesting hip and knee joint coordination. And then if it hurts the knee, if you're pulling too far back with the knee and it feels a little challenged, you can always slide your right foot farther down. This is a great tactic for this one. And then hook that left ankle to the right knee, and then let that left knee release out. You could slide your right foot in after you position the ankle onto the knee. Yeah, one ankle feels a little bit bothered for me on this one. Just doesn't quite feel the bones. I have to kind of slide it a little bit back and forth until the bones have kind of slithered into place. Bone slithering. And so as the right foot is centered, I have no idea if it's parallel or not. So what I'm going to work with is the guide of the left knee releasing out. There's a little shift in the hip. It's not perfectly balanced because of my knee position, but we're trying to start opening up through the adductors today and the hip flexors. So let's give it a few moments. Your foot could be relaxed, your left foot. Breathe slow. Keep that right foot pressing down now. And then you let that left knee stay with its open position. And then you'll slide the left ankle down to the floor besides the right foot. And then the right sole of the foot will touch the left sole of the foot and the knees are out. Cobbler's pose. Yeah, one hip is probably still has a measure of awareness moving externally, so it feels a little bit more open in the beginning. But the other side will pick up the circulation pace. The arms can stay resting. I don't want you to excite the arm muscles right now. They're getting enough with the obvious choice of chest opening. Okay, and then feeling how the legs stretch straight down. Slide the sand down to the front of the thighs or add sand now to the thigh lids. And then feel the reach of the heels, like you're pushing through the heel basin and the lift of the foot. It's not like they flip up. They don't just flip, right? There's quite a bit of bone sensation right in our feet. There's a lot of bones. So feel them bones, step the heels so they are wide enough that you feel more upright with the feet versus turning out. So if that means you have to step your feet really far out, that's okay. But feel the measurement of awareness in your back. I have to find where the tension is just the right amount in my back strength. And then bring the hands. In fact, let's grab our belt. And you can double up the belt so it's a little thicker. As we mentioned, we don't need it buckled, because I don't think so. Reach up with the hands holding the belt wider than shoulder width. Be generous with the grasp and the width. And then cycle that movement of inhale up in the rib cage, the belly and rib cage, the ribs, belly and ribs. And then motion the arms a bit slowly, reaching, and then feeling what happens in your shoulders when you go slow. Moving the hands maybe out on the belt. Some of you might find that your belt width, your hold on the belt is just too narrow. So make sure you're generous again on that reach. And as you reach back, I don't think you're probably feeling only the belt now, it's likely the ribs. And just visualize that they expand. They may not viscerally look like they're doing much spreading out, but part of it is believing it, I think, in this practice, believing that you can reorganize your inner space and create more spaciousness. Probably not only in body, but in mind. And then when you feel that you're holding on to the belt, okay, let's let go of it, even if it ends up behind you. Oh well. All right, now as we shift our circulation into side sage, kind of feel, and this is not possible for you to really see, I think, even if we were right next to each other, but you're trying to roll your shoulders back and a little bit down. Now with the arms in a position, whether they're behind you or besides you, it's very in particular, but I want you to get a feeling that the armpits kind of warm up when you do that. It's kind of some heat. So I'm trying to keep my ribs lifting And feel like that small movement of the shoulders. You know what that is when you kind of roll your shoulders down and in. But if I have my arms either out or back, it's a ripple effect through the arms themselves. I don't want to say muscles, but the circuitry, right back to the heart, back out to the hand. So take just a moment there. Feel like you kind of push into your bolster. And then slide your feet in. Slide the sand to the left. And you might be okay with your block there. I tend to leave it there and wish I didn't. So I'm going to reach for the block and then place it behind me and then roll left and kind of feel what it's like to roll before you reset yourself because you look kind of uncoordinated, right? Kind of feel the roll in the ribs. And then as you aspire to get a little bit more responsible about your position, okay, feel how the ribs, they lengthen here. So even when I lean in, I want to kind of stay with that because when I push up, I tense up. So see if you can get really cozy with your bolster. And maybe you have to get into the center of your mat. And we'll take a side sage. This will be kind of like a slumber party side sage. Okay, so you want to get kind of curled into it. So take a ball, place it on the inside of the right leg. If you don't have a ball, you could use a block, or you might not prefer to use one at all. Okay, so the sand is an important feature today, so you can kind of settle in. Now, when you lean to the left, the waist might kind of push down towards the thigh, right? See, I'm almost trying too hard on this one. So I want you to feel that your left arm slides between the bolster and the blankets. And the blankets could stack higher, right? You could fold this one a little higher up. That feels more comfy for you. You'll find out when you get there, but it's a little challenging if you get to the sand on your side and then you have to curl your blanket up. So make the choice on the blanket before you add sand to your side. And now try to add some sand to either your ribs lengthwise or across your hip. You could sort the sand out so it's down on the hip, it's across. Yeah, sometimes that feels good. But I know that this would help my length. Okay. So as I reach with that right side band, I let the left leg also have a little bit of creativity. And I don't mind using a block overhead. I don't think it's healthy for me to have my arms straight overhead to the block for my shoulder joint. So if I move my block like kitty corner to if I look overhead to the right, that feels so much more peaceful in my shoulder. So what it does is it creates that ripple of elongation for my side band. So that's fine. I don't need it to look a certain way. But when you're centering the body weight down, feel where the top leg is heavy, whether it's on a ball or it's on the floor. And if it's not on anything, you probably have a little bit more range to stretch the top leg back. So I could use my left foot to push the ball and try to increase that hip flexor range. Don't be too forceful with it. Your arm doesn't have to be on a block. It could be on the bolster. It could be on your side as well. And then the left leg, it can stay with a strong hinge. You could try to scissor kick so that left leg tries to kick out a little bit towards its foot. And that might feel kind of interesting in your centering experience, right? Trying to stay weighted into the hip. Yeah, this is an interesting knee conundrum. Most of us don't feel like this is difficult on our knee joint. But when we come up and do things like pigeon or seated forward folds, it's a different issue, but it's the same shape. So just kind of notice how you access the pose and breathe slow. And whatever is in your environment sound-wise, see if you can steady the focus on a breath and another one. Let your head be heavy. That's a hard one, is the neck and the weight of the head. Now, as you feel positioning kind of power on the side, right? You're going to, it's temporary. So at some point you'll center from here into another shape. So let the right hand help the sand go away. And then kind of feel how that's got one side band. And we're going to reach the right arm down to help us curl and come up to our seat. And let's push the bolster a little bit back to the blankets, not on top of the blankets. I don't think. It could be kind of good, but we'll see. So let's turn towards the wall. Okay. Take a belt. Oh, it's behind you. Scoop up your feet and unbuckle that belt. So it's scooping the feet. So I'm scooping up my feet and I'm just scooping them in the belt. For the moment here, my heels are down, my elbows are by the side. This is, I think, a pretty critical stage of this balance, is feeling how you're seated, right? You're not what you consider your sitting bones proper, right? Most of us find that when we're here or we're cross-legged, but it's still the butt, right? You're still in that space. So when you pull on the feet, find where the belt is on the bottom of the feet, that you're at least below the little toe, right? Hopefully you're not weaving the belt between the toes. So pull and then feel what happens when you lift them up in your lower back. So this is why I kind of like the bolster. Okay. And if I had it stacked on a blanket, I was thinking, oh, that might be good. But for now, I'm not going to use the bolster that much. But when I lift up the feet, you might find your knees are in a strong bend. You might find they're okay with pushing. Yeah, they're okay with that reach. But see if you can let your upper body kind of drift back so that it's okay to touch the bolster. It's okay to lose it, to lose the whole shape and get, pretty shaky. And of course, the legs might not comply with the positioning. They might get a little shaky. Okay. So now feel when you bend through, it's what's bendy is the legs, right? The arms ideally are pretty straight. So take a few of those where you bend the knee duo, and then you straighten the legs. That's it, just bending, breathe in, exhale, lift up. That's a pretty fast breath pace, huh? So feeling now, I try to push pretty firm into my feet so it kind of bypasses my hip flexors, but that's what I feel. You might find, oh, that's a hip flexor misery for you. So I want you to push and really get a lot of pressing when you lift the feet, whether they're high up or not. We're not so concerned. Now, as we lower the feet down, let's take our ball between the knees and see if you can let the arms just reach forward of the shoulder line. Squeeze into the ball and then relax the grip. So inhale, heart lifts. Exhale, squeeze into the ball. Inhale, heart lifts. Exhale, squeeze in. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, squeeze. And inhale, lift. I know I'm not actually pushing up. I'm just reminding myself to keep my chest up versus rounding, and then squeeze. Okay, now when I release the ball out to the side, to the right side, you're gonna try to walk the feet in a little closer together and then bring your hands back to the bolster, press, and you might have to scoot your feet in pretty close to towards your seat, and then lift yourself up onto it and stretch your feet forward and grab your belt. I hope it didn't go away. And then pull onto the feet. And this is so much easier than trying to kick my feet up in the air. But feel the responsibility. I mean, unfortunately, we have responsibilities for our alignment if we're gonna make it well inside, and lifting up the heart. Okay. This is called Paschimottanasana. Staff pose. All right. So pull. And then if you have a lot of spinal curves, that's fine. We don't want to have the spine in one direction. We have many curves. So feel where the elbows get right by the sides. Slide the hands on the belt. Remember, we want lots of belt room here. By the sides. And then feel if you can sit upright, not uptight. Lift up the heart. Okay, so there's a spine sensation of extension. Okay, and then let go of the belt, stretch both arms straight up to the ceiling. If it hurts your shoulders, don't bring them quite so far up. Flex through your feet, toes are up. Little bend to the knees. I have to reinforce that for myself so my legs don't just kind of lower down all the way. And then arms stretching out to the sides, and then slide down off the bolster. Very simple. Belt goes off to the side. We'll use it again at some point. And we'll take a side sage on the right hip. Okay, back to slumber party. So ball on the inside of the left leg. I think your bolster probably needs to get pushed back in towards your feet, huh? That direction. Okay, so I know that my block isn't going to work there for me, so I'll move it over to the left. And then as I lean, I like to get the sand close by so that it's a little easier on my joints, right? When I grip and pull, and after so long, you'll figure that out. It's better to just take it easy with sand hold. So slide it up to that left side now. So we're now on the other side sage. And, you know, maybe you have a little more of rotation on one side or easier flow with the ribs to spread out. So there's two different ways of the motion of the ribs. There's like that horizontal, and then there's that extension, right? So you might feel like kind of playing with it a bit. Kind of lets the time go by in some ways, just fussing around. So you're in your home practice, you can fuss, you get to choose. But when you decide to have that length, feel where the weight of your head is down. So I can let my head relax a little better on this side if I have the back of my head kind of resting. I have to admit, I don't have as much tightening in my jaw. If I turn to the side of my head, it's kind of tricky to find that just true letting go. So just take your time to feel around with that. Let that left hand maybe touch to the block or to the bolster or on your side. And sense the weight into your right hip. That should be probably the place you feel the most weight bearing. Okay, give it a few moments. Okay, it's gonna move over a little bit. All right, so you can feel how that left leg extends back. And as that left leg is in reach, and maybe your sand is still onto your side, the whole sequence is now going to change, as you can tell. All right. Okay, so when you have that reach to that left side band, ace choreography here. I want you to get a feel of the rotation down into that right hip. And when you shift your weight, big change here. So when you turn to that right side, you're going to slide the sand to the right. So get it towards the wall. Well, actually, I don't know if you have any wall on that side. But when you turn, you're going to shift so that you're going to face with your hands, knees, and I want you to have your bolster lengthwise underneath you. And if you like blankets under your knees or one, grasp a hold of those and put them under your knees. But if you don't use them for your standing poses, just slide them over to the side. Okay, so the blankets would be on the side, and you'll have your blocks in the front to the sides. But I'm going to put mine kind of far to the other side of my mat because you won't be able to see me very well if I have it right next to my face. Okay, but you can have yours up to the side. So here we go. So we got our feet at the wall. It says, why do we need the wall so soon? And all right, okay. Now we can, Ace has given us the blessing to start class again here. So we're going to push into the wall with our feet, and we have the bolster under the waist. I absolutely love doing back bends with the bolster under my core. So we're going to reach down with our palms and stretch the torso forward. Now you could kind of bring the hands farther on the other side, right, towards your edge of your mat. You could do that. And that's probably a little easier on your back. But you might find that if your hands turn out, you can kind of play with this. I would sample how you emit weight into your spread of your hands, especially since there's, wrists, thumbs, there's those things that happen with aging. So if taking your hands farther forward and then using more spine, strength, I would take this version. This is a good spine strength one. So you choose for about another 30, 45 seconds. So I want you to push your feet into the wall. That's the biggest part. Now my feet are not up on the wall high up, but they're as low as they can go so I can stretch the toes. I just don't get a lot of stretch. So toes stretch a little bit here. All right, now lower down. Don't get too cozy. Don't take a nap here. But I want you to let the arms stretch back and then reset the feet pushing into the wall. Yeah, this one's hard for me to push back into the wall with my feet and to use my glutes and fire them up, okay, so that the feet actually respond and do something. So try this. Let your hands be down on the ground besides your bolster so that it feels like you're like a little grasshopper here. And then feel the feet push into the wall. You can lower your head a little bit so it's easier on your back. And just feel the feet push. So if I push into my hands, I can do that. I can actually push into my feet much more. But once I eliminate the hands, I have to figure out how to use my glute muscles to push back. So these are great. Baby back bends are super for spine strength. And for most of us, if we have a regular exercise of doing baby back bends every week, you probably will eliminate most of that backache, depending on what else you're doing, I suppose. But okay, so this is our super man or woman pose here. Okay, now bring the elbows straight down. So you're in Sphinx pose. And when you push into your feet, now let your knees lower down. Okay, now the back of the pelvis can actually kind of widen out in this position, especially when you have a bolster under you. So kind of feel your hips maybe shift a little side to side. Feel the weight of your head lean down. It's okay to let that flexion in the neck, just feel that for a moment. And feel what flexion is without doing an activity that creates flexion, like looking at a phone, that kind of thing. That's clearly going to be flexion, but you have like brain stuff going on at the same time. It's just all over the place. So press into your forearms or your two arms. Make sure the elbows and wrists are in the same line. And then feel that natural flexion. And feel how the chin moves towards the chest. that truly like you're pushing in towards the thyroid. So you're making that double chin. So press the chin towards the chest. Okay, now slide the hands back so they're under the shoulder line. Okay, and then bring your elbows in by your sides and feel if you can press your elbows towards your sides. Lift up the chest and then let the neck lengthen on its own with coming from flexion to gentle extension. And then come back to table and let's move our bolster over to the side. And all these props are going to be in a big heap. Okay, you might have a blanket under your knees. Now, when you come forward to up dog, push into your feet so your knees are off the floor. Lengthen, lift up. I know the hips will tend to kind of sag on here. So I'm pushing through my feet, lifting through the chest. And then come back to downward facing dog. Use the wall, whether your heels are up or your heels are at the base. Okay, you don't have to perfect it and have your heels high up. It's okay if your heels are low or the heels are high. It could be either one. What happens when your arms press, right? Not just the hands, but the arms press. Kind of similar to what we just did with the awareness of our buttock strength, the glutes. So you have to find other muscles besides pushing into your hands. Okay, now let's take a step forward with our right foot. So I tend to bring my feet close together and then launch forward. That's my habit. Some of us will find that doesn't work. We have to lower our knees down and then step forward. So you choose, that's easier, but you might find that you can launch forward from your hips up. Okay, it's momentum. So scoot your left foot back so you've got some blocks under your hands and get your blocks. And then press, lift up the back knee if it's not already up. And then as you venture into the lunge, I want you to work on, I don't know if you remember the first pose we did, but it was figure 4. So we had the foot on the knee and the ankle on the knee, and the knee was out. So I want you to first on this one, feel the knee is forward, just above the ankle. And now when you're moving your chest forward, make sure that block under the left hand is sturdy. Bring the right hand back to your sacrum and then turn the waist to the right. So now the upper body rotates, right? It's a kind of similar to that first shape we did, but now it's upper body turns. And then the right hand stays on the back. Now for me, I could kind of stretch the arm up to the ceiling, but I find this is interesting education for my shoulder and to make sure this right knee does not swing out or push in. Okay, so give that a focus of the twist. The left foot is a huge part of this. Going up in towards the pressure up into that left side of the torso, up into the left side of the digestive tract. Okay, now as you lower your right hand down, feel the push from that left foot. Try to use that as help. And not just the hands kind of dredging you forward, but push and then find your feet finders. Okay, now when I have my feet in this position, they're in a parallel angle, right? So they're straight forward. When I reach, this is a habit, right? Part of my spine will flex and round. So I want you to take your blocks so that you have them forward at their highest setting. You can step your feet wider, but they're still parallel. I don't want them to turn out to second position. So they're forward. And then feeling how the angle is on the back of the legs, a little bit of micro bend. Okay, and then let the torso either stay here or you're going to lower your torso to your thighs and hold your elbows. You're going to choose one or the other, okay? But as you position, feel the movement of the breath. Right, feel how the ribs expand. Of course, this is different with the hands on the blocks. It's going to feel a little more it's a different energy infusion in it. You have to like properly push muscles. This one, it's like you're in a phase of draining out. So you choose, but some of us don't like this dangling position. Okay, now let the weight of your feet center, like you're trying to put your feet into a bigger shoe or something, you're really trying to spread them out. Pretend they can fit. And you can't really do that, huh? You can't really add something to your feet to make it fit a bigger shoe, but feel how you press into the balls of the feet and spread back into the heel. If you're holding onto your elbows, change the crossing. If you're on your blocks and you're feeling like bored to stay with this, you might work on reaching the chest a little forward, letting your head tilt so you're not tightening the neck. Let's all bring our feet a little closer towards each other, and then taking your hands onto the blocks for those that are dangling, and step that right foot back. Okay, I hope your bolster's nearby because we'll need it real soon. So we have our heel reaching back towards the wall. And this side feels a little easier as the motion of the joint from me gliding in the knee. So when I step into my lunge from back to forward, it's a different feel in my knee joint. So these are kind of things to notice, like, wonder why that glide is different. It could be how it moves out of my hip, my torso. Pretty interconnected. So first thing, feel where the lunge is. This is a mid lunge. It's not high. It's not all the way down to the knee. If you like to have your right knee on the ground and get a different stretch, you're welcome to touch it down, of course. And then as you feel the left hand reach back to the sacrum, try to keep the torso reaching forward, like you're trying to reach your navel towards the left knee, just that stretch of the back. And then maybe take a twist to your left, but my right hand is on the block. I have it spread out to the right side a little bit. It's not very close to my left foot, so I have a wider base. So when I turn left, I just feel like there's just more of a span for my extremities, which is my left foot, my right hand, my right heel. Feel that twist through the waist. Breathe. It only helps. Okay, now this is one you probably know that you can straighten your front leg and get deeper stretch in the hip joint, but it's up to you. I'm going to keep my knee bent. I like to work on strength and muscles. Okay. Now, as the left hand either lifts up for some of you, if you want to go all out with it, take a moment of the lift. And then as the left hand lowers down for all of us, we're going to use a bolster. Okay, so if you want to stay with the lunge and then drag your bolster across, that might be your easiest move, because putting your knee down might not be what everybody wants to do right now. But you can also put your back knee down and then drag your bolster across. At some point it has to go down. Okay, so let's walk the left foot over to the right. So my bolster is horizontal, it's down on the mat. It's not levitating. Okay, my back knee is now low. I'm going to walk my left foot across the mat to the right to pigeon pose with the left hip. Now here is where you might decide you need a blankie under your back knee. So I lean forward and then it lowers the pressure on my knee. It's not as much on my back knee, so I'm fine with it. If you're on a carpet, it's probably just okay. But for some of us, we might need to add some extra cushion. You can also put your blocks under your elbows or your blankets. You could slide them in, they're a little more cozy. Blocks are pretty defined, so I do like their definition and kind of security under my arms. Let's just be in this pose. So my left knee is bending, the knee is out to the left side, the left foot is hooked to the edge of the bolster, so it's on the floor. And I'm letting the body weight lean into my left hip. Yeah, the right foot is barely really pushing much onto the wall. I'm not using the wall very much, but you could get closer to the wall and let the right foot be up at the wall. You know, but it's an interesting knee conundrum. If you do that motion, and if the foot is a little bit in, it's not good on the knee. So you might need to just kind of let it be behind you. Because that foot's not going to be straight back if you kind of notice how the foot lives. Even though you think your foot's straight, it's the bone motion in the ankle is kind of turns. It rotates the top foot a little in. And now feel when you are kind of overcome with sensation in the hip. And take a moment with that reality of natural lower back arch. Nice work. So let's just switch the pigeon to the right hip. No big deal. So we have a bolster to be on, and then we can just let our weight lift and then cross the right leg. Now, if you decide you want to sit for a moment and just get the spine to be up, and then feel how you transition the spine back. So it's kind of waving back and forth. Yeah. If you were to look at how the skeleton is moving, and then you're kind of creating that position into the right hip now. And let the weight, it might be a different weight pressure, especially if you go one side right into the next. I want to feel what your habit is with the hip placement. Maybe close your eyes. Sometimes it's nice to go back to the first side just for a moment and just kind of feel, how do I manage my movement of my back? Maybe you have, this is a good time to workshop it. You have some habits, and your work is to try to find some balance. And as you lean down, eventually on this right hip, make sure that you're at a position next to the wall that's comfortable. So if you're too close, you might have to scoot a little bit away if it's bothering you. The wall won't know that it needs to move away from you. So get a feel of the body weight on the right thigh. My hope is if you do use a bolster, you don't have to for this, but it does push the skin and it kind of stretches it out. So it's a little bit more, it's superficial fascial work, but it's nice to just get that skin, you know, that layer over the muscle to get kind of pressed and loosening it up. And then when you steady the position, right, you can feel the circulation working into that hip. Give it a few more breaths here. Ribs, maybe slight movement, could be pretty casual. Okay, now my assumption is you're facing away from the wall. There are walls all around you, but at least the direction where your left foot is, just the left foot is back towards the wall. So kind of feel where there's a little bit of a hike up into the right hip, right? It kind of is pressure. So you're going to take your blanket, if you have it under your elbows, you're right there, but you're going to have one blanket, which is on the edge of this side of the mat. And what we'll do is we'll bring the left leg forward, and then we're going to turn, don't Humpty Dumpty after your bolster, but it might happen. You're going to turn so your feet are towards the wall, not at the wall, but towards the wall. And we're going to go all the way back into legs up. Okay, so hip pelvis is at the center front of the horizontal bolster. This is, I think, key. And then when I go back You might do a little bit of a leg tantrum right now, kind of a hip, a little wagging tantrum for a bit. This is a good one to do that for. And likely the legs want some response, something to do, okay? So take a moment while I figure out what I'm up to too, and let the legs have that natural lift, okay? So that natural reach. Now you're gonna use a ball and place it between the knees. That's a good target for this one. How to feel when you push into the ball. If it hurts your knees, you can go a little higher on the leg in the inner thigh, not below the knee, because that would really be very helpful. So I try to make it so that I have a tiny micro bend in the knees. And then I have to access the circulation in my legs, and circling the feet would be good, even though it seems like you don't have to do, but find some kind of spreading of the bottom of the foot this way. And as the shoulders center down, give it a few moments of motion, circling the feet. Feel that rotation. Okay, now once you find that stillness, the shoulders center back. The head is on just one blanket, just under your head, maybe right up to your shoulders, but nothing under your shoulders. Okay, now feeling that there's some separation, specifically with both of the legs, that you're trying to even up the experience of draining out the legs, the lymphatic drain. So feeling your eyes close, sense a movement of the breath, feeling it move down to the lower abdomen, and that movement of lifting that lower torso successfully with your breath. Like you're doing a little workout, right, with your abdominal area with your breathing. And it's intentional, especially when you're on your back. That's an interesting one. It's more challenging for your breath, or for your lungs, I would need to say, the lungs. And now bend the knees, okay? And then let's let the feeling of the legs just gently go side to side. So feel them swish. I try to let the arms, well, I'm not trying, I want them not to try, just let them exist. So feel that the busy positioning, you're busy in the legs, leg busyness. Now when the knees shift, you can feel the body weight. You're learning how to use your body weight to help you stretch. So even though we have all these props we use, we still have to kind of coordinate. And you'll notice that if you've been doing this a while, and then if you're around someone who hasn't, it's interesting how much coordination you develop. And so you truly are, right? You have some connections internally and muscularly. So let the knees go side to side for a good, we're about to 10 probably, I would imagine now, crossovers. But take a moment when you go to the right side and feel the knees shift over to the right. Let the left shoulder stay down. If it does not, it's not capable, you could put a blanket under the shoulder or a towel, but you are trying to keep this left side of the chest open. So I'm trying to get my left shoulder to stay down. There's more weight on my right. And the knees will shift through center and to the left. Right shoulder centers down. You know, your head could be centered. It's almost too much information for me to keep moving my head back and forth. You know, as you bring the knees back into the middle, take the ball out and take a block and place it behind the right thigh. Let the right leg lift up, the left foot lower down. I guess it's the whole leg part of the connected to the foot, huh? And my block is across, it's at the lowest setting, so it easily can press across the upper back part of the right thigh. So should you go all the way up to the very attachment? I wouldn't think that's a good idea. You want to be kind of in the middle of the upper back leg. We don't even need to name a muscle, but I want you to get a feeling of touching into that upper space. Maybe wiggle the block a little back and forth and feel the shoulders center back so it feels like you're puffing up your chest. Okay, chest puffer. That's what we'll call this one, chest puffer. All right, now the right knee is in a bend. Now feel when you bend it a lot. Bend the right leg so that the calf might touch onto the block. This should feel, curious for your right side of your back. See if you can pull on the block so you're kind of, it's different than a belt, isn't it? It's unique. It's pressing into the skin a lot more. And the belt is just on a foot, right? I don't think we've ever used the belt behind the thigh in this kind of thing. I don't think we've ever done that. So feel if you can lift your leg minus tightening the front of the thigh. That's tricky. So I'm really pressing with my hands onto the sides of the block. And then I'm really working on stretching the back of the leg. So as I lift, I'm trying to let my leg weight just kind of fling back into my waist. Your mobility might not be there. You might be shaky. So give yourself a little bit of ease on it. None of us have to be pushing straight in. That doesn't work for you. But, feel the back of the leg really working and wiggle the block so you can get a little palpation in the back of the leg. Take a few moments here. Simple, simple. Okay, and circle the right foot all the way down into the ankle band. Go both directions 2 or 3 times. Okay, and then as you slide the left foot in, you're going to switch sides. So what I would recommend you do is to take the block out from that right side, just place it on your torso, and then just let both legs go up. Yes, it's nice to feel a weird difference. Weird difference. Okay, now if you don't feel support on your bolster, you can scoot yourself a little bit lower if you've kind of slid back. That's natural. Separation is natural, right, with your carts and props. Okay, so I can feel a little more spaciousness on that right leg. It's kind of a mysterious difference. So when the right knee bends now, and you place the block behind the left thigh, again, you might let the right knee stay bending, you might let it extend down. It's your choice entirely. So hold on to the block at its lowest setting. Pull. I feel when you're pulling, the block is pushing into the leg. You're bending the left leg, maybe quite a bit, maybe not very much for some of us. And manage that circulation where it's really focused on the back of the left leg, stretching for the benefit of your back, the back of the waist, the kidneys. Big part of this is that circulation versus just like, oh, I want to get my hamstrings a little more flexible. It's the circulation goes in towards the organs. Okay, so let the left knee bend, and you could just let it go. Just let it bend on its own. Now, however much it goes without force, and feel a little bit of that calf stretch. I like the block because it kind of pushes into my calf, and you can feel that circulation. You can let your knee move a little side to side, wiggle, give yourself a lot of wiggle room. If you're getting tired of holding the block, you could try without holding it. See if you can hold your block on just with the leg. Okay. And then resting the focus through the back line of the left side of the body. Okay, now as you motion, the block away, I want you to get a feel of that left front leg towards the left side of the torso. That's pure and simple. Hold on just below the left knee. If that hurts you, you can hold lower than that part of the knee. You're going to carefully slide the block out, but then the left heel is going to kind of drop. And we're going to get a belt and place it below the left foot. If you kind of slid back on your bolster, bend your right knee to guide yourself back on. And hold on to the belt with the right hand and cross the left leg to the right. And give it a little time to kind of restore the circulation through the back line and the side band of the left leg. Hopefully you don't push into a wall so you get as much range as you need, but sometimes when you have something in the way, you can figure out how to align yourself on the bolster so you still get that full stretch. You can scoot to the left or however you are with support. Okay, now left arm is relaxed open below the level of the heart, so it's real easy going on the shoulder. And then if you can let your feeling of spine be centered all the way up into the brain stem, so not a lot of head turning here, just centering the skull and feeling the breath move internally. And bend your left knee. Okay, now let both feet go up into the belt, so that goes up, and the right foot goes up. Push the feet out, so a wide stance. If you're a little tilted on the bolster, take some time to feel towards center, because your feeling is more important than how it looks, right? So if you feel like, I got this, I got the hands holding onto the belt, my feet are in an expressive stance, then you got it, okay? You can certainly bend your knees. You can make it not quite as wide. You can buckle up if you prefer this position with the belt connected and not holding. That's completely fine, okay? So get a feel when the feet have that shape of maybe turning out, maybe parallel. Now the turning out is a challenge for me, and I know that my adductors are short, so it's a good idea to get the length in there. Back line is long, but adductors are short, so get a feeling of that reach. Okay, now as you slide the feet closer, you're going to let the left leg lower down, left leg entirely down. Left hand holds the belt that's holding the right foot, and then cross the right leg to the left. Just feeling how you sort out the circulation in the band of the leg. You choose, right? You might have the leg pushing a little downstream, maybe across. There you go. I see a foot. Okay, so finding where that angle is in the hip. I mean, you can obviously see your leg and your foot. And I know you got a hip, but it's not that easy to see how the hip motion is it? It's embedded hips. So get a feel for it. If it's really grueling and tiring, just take a couple breaths. Stretch it out. This mid part of our body is in the middle of it all. It could use the support, not just digestive, but the areas in the hip, the top of the leg, just a nice soak of sensation in the stretch. And that's kind of what we're going to continue on in the spinal is that soaking of sensation, whether we like it or not. Breaks are permitted, not breaks, but if you need to take a break, you can. Okay, now when you bend through the right knee, careful, right? Because you got a knee joint that's against the pressure of holding the foot. So you want to be careful, so there's resistance. And then when I bend the knee and hold onto the foot, Now when I take the left foot up into the belt and push out, last one, I like to connect the belt personally because it just happens to work out for me right now, that I could see the buckle, and there we go. But to get a feeling of, without grasping with my hands, letting my elbows be open, the shoulder line is not tightening. So the most focus here is that lower band, adductors. And interesting, right, if your feet have a little turnout, you just can let them go that way with the belt holding, okay? It doesn't feel right to turn them in very much on this one, does it? You can play with the external, internal. It's just a good experience, especially when you're on your back versus when you're standing on your feet, because then you have all that postural stuff that comes up in our spine. Right now, your spine is kind of neutral. It's not affecting it as much. Okay, so bend through the legs. Okay, reach up to your belt and slide the feet to each other. And once they meet, you're going to take the belt off. They can stay meeting if you want for a while. And let's scoot our bolster towards the wall. So I want you to scoop your knees in and push the bolster towards the wall. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to push the bolster to the wall, and then I'll figure out how far I need to lower down. So slide my blanket and kind of make my way closer to a supportive wall. I hope my wall is supported. Okay. Now do a little self-massage using the ball. So you're going to take the ball under the buttock. So left buttock is a fine place to start. And it's the middle of it, to the middle top glute medius. So I don't think that's that helpful to say, because what you're going to do is put your body weight in the ball and then massage your backside, your rear, the buttocks, right? Not your back, upper body. So you want to feel that you can swish a little side to side. You can maneuver the movement, even if it goes farther to the side of the hip, like almost towards touching the leg, it's fine. That feels good. And then take it to the other side. It's likely you're going to have one side you're going to want to do this more on than the other. It's going to feel, oh, this feels best. I just want to stay with it. So you are welcome to stay more on the left side or the right side. But let's take about another, full minute just massaging the glutes. So again, it's not necessarily right in the center of the buttock. You're probably leaning to the side to stretch the attachment, right? Because when you crossed your leg with the belt, you were probably feeling that heat. And you did that in pigeon, so it's nice to follow up with this at least within 10, 15 minutes. Okay. Probably slow body weight and movement. Just let the body weight drain into that ball, and then push it around so you can massage and jostle the tissues. Tissue jostling. It's a thing. All right, now when you feel the body weight into that ball on one side of you, right? If you just stop and you just let your leg kind of drain out, you can feel it's really, one side kind of has a little bit of hardware focus to stay stable, and the other side is kind of squiggly. So when you come back into with that knee, I want you to put the ball right at the sacrum. So it's base of the spine, okay? It kind of attaches to your clothes. Interesting, doesn't it? You have to kind of figure it out. And then give yourself a little time to figure this one out. So my head is on the blanket. My blanket's pushed right up to my shoulders, not under, but right up to it. And then I'm going to let the legs flow up and work on my lower abdominal muscles here. That usually piques people's interest. But this is not opposite of prolapse, right? So it's pulling in and up, right? Pulling in and up towards the abdomen or abdomen, whichever. So when I have that lift of my feet, now my feet don't know they're lifting, but as I have that motion, I like to let my body weight really land into that ball. Okay, so arms are down by the sides. Now you can have the hands off the floor to get a little extra credit. No doubt you're probably kind of squiggling around, trying to find that stillness. I don't know if it's possible, like true stillness on this one. My hands touch the floor, I can find a little more serenity. Okay, so my feet are neutral. They're kind of combining together. They're not flexing, they're not pointing. Okay, now I want you to bend through the right leg. Just let the knee kind of poke through. So you don't need to pull it to the right side of your chest. Let the left leg start to lower down. Luckily you got a wall there, so you got something that will stop it. And then come back up with the left leg and then change to the right leg, lowering down to touch the wall. If you can't touch the wall, you get more points on this one for sure. As you go farther down, more challenge. Okay. Now feel when you let the legs both go back up that you can bend through the knees, I'm assuming towards your chest. Stretch the back. Oh, this feels so good on the back to stretch deep. Digestive tract pressure. Okay. Now, carefully, you can't remove the ball just like that. You're not going to slide it out. We don't want to have any crashes. So carefully lower your feet. I'm going to make sure I got a bolster. Push into your feet, lift the hips up. Lift up so that you just feel that ball. You know it's there. You can kind of feel it. You don't have to try to squeeze the ball, although it's funny how you almost feel like you're pushing in at the sacrum. And then slide the ball out and try to keep that lift of the hips. Okay. Take a block or two. I think I'm a one block today. So I'm going to put my block up at the second setting because that's about all the oomph I have to get my hips to go up. I don't think they're going to go up higher comfortably. And then settle the block there and then let the glutes relax. They were probably almost relaxed in the last pose when you had the core balance, but there is always a little grip going on to keep it. So now you can relax the glutes. You might have to kind of touch them and notice, are you gripping? Are you gluting? Okay, glute free. All right. I like the idea of pushing my feet into the wall on this, but then I have to reorient my block a little bit back, not back on my spine, but I kind of shift it so that my feet can push firm into the wall. And then the blanket, you might go without it, and then let your shoulders center back into your sides, chest open, arms down towards the legs, palms open. Even though they may not be similar, one might be kind of stretching out, one might be curled, but feeling the shoulders back. You could do this position with your knees bent and the feet on the bolster. If it hurts you to try to push your feet into the wall, then don't do it. Okay, and it's okay. So this position with my knees bent, I feel a little smoother in my lower back. But if I stretch my legs down, I can orient my props to do this under my back, under my pelvis. Then what I have to do to release my back is to open up my ribs. And I can do it, but it takes some practice to get the upper body to stretch. Okay, so feel that your feet push into the wall, especially at the balls of the feet versus the heels, because that tends to hyperextend the knees if I push into my heels. A few moments, shoulders back, chest open. Okay, now slide the feet to the bolster, knees point up, and then press down to your feet. So the glutes activate. Try to activate and lift and slide the block out. And then once your spine starts to lower down, You're going to take the blanket under your head and then feel the spine completely all the way through the back of the pelvis, center. It should take a few moments. It's your body, right? So take the time. And then once you center, it might creep back into a little bit of back grip. So what we'll do is we're going to use our bolster to the side of our mat. So I want you to push the bolster with your feet or foot to the right side of your mat. And if you need to bring your knees in, I want you to wait for that because it tends to shock the sacrum. So if I go from this spine back bend position and then I suddenly pull my knees and then I take a twist, it just kind of wreaks a little havoc in that SI area. So if it's feeling a little difficult right now, you could press the spine and the lower back into the floor, push into your feet. Try to stay with that. And then let the right leg release down and it can bend and the left leg will stretch over to the bolster. And have it be a focus of the leg actually kind of stretches over, okay? You can add the ball to your sacrum. If that idea doesn't work for you to not bring your knees to your chest, do what you need to do. And that's just what I've had in my education for postures, whatever that good that is. But I think I've learned a little bit from some teachers. Thank goodness for teachers. Okay, so have the sand to the side of that left thigh towards the knee. Some people don't like that towards the knee and complain about it. I find it easier on my knee. Some will say, no, it's easier on my hip. So to each his own. Okay, left arm is open, or it's a little down, or it's a little up. Okay, but feel if you can let your head roll a little to the left. Maybe your right hand is on your abdominal area to feel the movement of breath. And in this final spinal, you want to convey that circulation through the back line, cross into the hips, slow breath. And give yourself permission if you're a soundful sigh out or anything is fine. It can also be very quieting. This is interesting. You know, when we were doing side sage, and the one focus was to get the weight of your head to relax. This one to get the bottom hip to kind of really release is somewhat tricky. There might be just little holding patterns. Of course, that's living, is holding patterns. I'm in a holding pattern, I'm living. But part of it might be, can you let go in this practice? That's part of the practice. And you can slide the sand off even when your head is turned, right? So there's no real rules that you have to have your head centered and move this and that. You know, see what's organic for you. What's kind of a natural momentum for you to move this side. Maybe your head moves last. You know, see the movement of things. Now, when I shift the sides, I'm going to try to keep the principle of feet down, pressing, spine lengthening. Or maybe it's kind of spine flattening. Okay, so now you can use your hands to move your bolster to the other side. And you might move your body like over to the right side of your mat. And then I don't mind having both knees in an equal bend and then swing the right leg up onto the bolster. Now, how you coordinate your back muscles is probably different on each side. So you kind of have to spot yourself because you don't have a spotter like going, wait a minute, you moved your hip 2 more degrees on that side. So part of this home practice is, maybe in the moment you notice, oh, I get my waist to stretch more on this side. I wonder why that is. So just be curious and affectionate with yourself. Sometimes you'll notice something, and maybe the next time you'll start out with a different alignment for it. So this side, the sand to the knee might feel better, or the hip, it just feels your way into circulation balance. It's all about the moment here. So as you open out that right arm, I don't mind it being lower than the heart, since this is our last couple poses. I don't want my arms to be really high up above my heart level, so I can really support my kind of nervous system recovery mode. So my head might roll to the right, it might not. Yeah, the movement in the head is, I think it's kind of funny, because the skull, like, it feels like this bowling ball that goes back and forth, but there is some sensory focus in there that's besides just the bowling ball. So if you can kind of edge into it, just move, roll a little bit. Maybe you feel the neck gently stretch. Almost there. Okay, so wherever that is, huh? Almost empty. Okay, now, again, you might just move the ball first and the sand, and then your head turns, or maybe it's the opposite direction. But we're going to make our way towards all the way to the wall now. It's the all the way to the wall pose. So roll to the left, come up, take it easy. If you need to kind of bring your knees in, kind of huddle your knees towards your chest, you might like to do that after that series. But this will be nice. We'll have kind of a complete emphasis. So if you have an eye pillow, grasp that for your final practice. If you like a blanket on your bolster, like another one, you can put that there. I like to sit next to the wall as close as I can, and can never get close enough though. So when I swing the legs up and drain out the knees, knee drain out here, I have my hip balance up high, and then I add first the sand to the soles, and you might have to find an easeful bend and press up, find as much as you can, balancing the weight if you're using sand, right? I know many of you might not prefer that for this pose, and it's fine. Okay, so blanket, perhaps extra support, which is weight. It doesn't seem like a lot of weight, but it does offer that awareness in the core. And then if you have an eye pillow, add that to your eyes. So there's that curtain of darkness and that comfort in that skin of centering. And the arms are down by your sides. They're low, they're not high up. The shoulders might have to negotiate an even pressure. But with the movement of the breath in the centerpiece of the body, likely that becomes the emphasis, is the movement and stillness. It's reversing the flow of gravity back to the heart. And nestle inside, noticing what arrives. The body gets centered, but the mind might become more active. So see if you can let go and feeling your body receiving the nourishment from practice. That part of you becoming centered is to be helpful for others, right? To feel that support. Even a little bit of that might seep out. Feel the weight of your body centered back, all of it. Now, if you have an eye pillow on, taking that aside and bending through the legs and shifting them off of the wall, and then sliding the sand either overhead, dropping it, or carefully guiding it out from your feet. And then with the knees bending, you can feel that circulation kind of cruise into the lower abdomen, especially when there's a blanket. That can be kind of nice to do, to massage, even if it's just pressure. Okay, pressure massage. Roll to one side and let your hands help gradually. And then associate just that movement of the hips back to the bolster, on top of the bolster with your sitting bones, and then find a minor lift of your hands in front of your heart. Feel that the center of the heart pours into that awareness that reaches out to others. Breathing in slow. And exhale.